when you're in a rut long enough, the universe may hit you with a rock bottom. Your manifestation is actually probably close and you're just not growing your self-worth fast enough to align with it, but it's actually really close to coming through. So the universe is like, I'm going to hit them in the Achilles heel right now because it's going to give them the motivation to do the work and get there. From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. So have you ever had that moment in life where you're like, gosh, I just can't seem to catch a break. I don't really have the motivation. I'm lacking inspiration. I'm kind of in a rut. Or maybe you've had the rug pulled out from under you. You've gone through a breakup or fired from a job, or perhaps things just keep hitting you one after another and you feel like you're fully in a rock bottom. Or maybe you have manifested some great things, incredible opportunities, and now you're kind of settling in at this new place and ready for more. What else can I make more aligned in my life? And that is the next level. Today, we're going to break down some of the most common energetic phases when it comes to this manifestation process and how to really discern. Lacy and I break down what it means to be in each of the phases and what sort of the gift of that phase is. How can you transform the silver lining of this phase and maybe go into this phase as a caterpillar, cocoon, and come out the other side as your beautiful butterfly self. When we recognize that we're in one of these phases, we have a lot of magnetism potential for transformation. So if we can go through it with intention, we can turn out the other side even more aligned. And this year's manifestation challenge is kicking off in November. We'll be helping you do just that no matter what phase you're in. And we've launched a quiz that will be available in the show notes. You can check out the link to help you discern what phase you're in. So feel free to send this episode and the quiz to any friends or family members or people you know that may be in one of these phases to help give them that hope and inspiration of how to transform it for their highest good.
And now, a word from our partners.
Speaking of manifestations, one major manifestation that has come through for me recently is Bond Charge's infrared PEMF mat. Their PEMF mat, which stands for Pulse Electromagnetic Field, is a magnetic energy mat that sends energy waves to work with your body's natural magnetic field and improve your overall well-being. Now, I originally heard of PEMF mats back in the day. I used the first one at Lacy's Forest Retreat House, and I kind of didn't really think it was going to do anything at first. And when I laid on this mat, I'm telling you, my whole body just relaxed. My nervous system relaxed, and I fully was able to calm down. Fast forward a few years later, one of our absolute favorite companies, Bond Charge, has launched their own PEMF mat, and it is fully loaded with all the best biohacking techniques you can imagine. So not only do they have multiple frequency settings, one for delta waves to improve deep sleep, one for grounding and earthing that is in the frequency of Schumann's resonance, which is the Earth's magnetic field frequency, one for alpha waves to increase calm creativity, one for beta waves for logical thinking, conscious thought, or meditation, and one that cycles through all four to really align all different parts of your body. But that's not all. They also have red, near infrared, and far infrared light wave frequencies. You've heard me talk about this before, but red light therapy can be so impactful for muscle soreness, tension, pain in the body, detoxification, and so many more things. It is also packed with tourmaline gemstones, germanium gemstones, and amethyst crystals, which all help to balance your mood, keep you calm, activate spiritual awareness, open intuition, and attract positive ions from your body to keep you in that balanced state. Like I said, this thing is fully loaded. So once we received it, we unloaded it into our living room, and it honestly hasn't left the floor because I find myself jumping on it multiple times a day when I want to meditate before the start of my day or when I'm needing to process and do a DI. It helps to take me deeper, calm my body, calm my nervous system. It is so good for meditation practices. It just helps you go a lot deeper. And when you are needing grounding breaks throughout the day, it is fantastic. So if you are interested in trying Bon Charge's new infrared PEMF mat, you can use the code MAGNETIC, that's all caps, MAGNETIC for 15% off. Again, that's magnetic, MAGNETIC for 15% off. Or you can go to boncharge.com/pages/magnetic and check out some of the other incredible biohacking low EMF products that Bon Charge has to offer.
All right, on to the episode.
Lacy, welcome. We have a big themed episode today, one that everyone asks 1,000,001 questions about, no matter what phase they're in. Am I in a rut, a rock bottom, an up level, or a magic dark? I think so many people have faced a ton of transition this year, things dropping off. The analogy of the crab shell seems to resonate with almost everyone right now, no matter what phase they're in with that crab shell and what their next shell may be. But I think it's a really important place to start with understanding where am I at right now before we jump into the manifestation challenge at the end of the year. So I'm excited to dive into this.
Yeah, so much of this challenge, as we discussed last week, Jessica's really starting to put this together with the team. It's a lot about inventory. Like you're saying, this is phase one. Where am I? So maybe we want to do a quick overview of each of these phases so somebody can sit and sort of resonate. Which one is actually speaking to me? And it's hard because we discovered this at the New York stop of the speaking tour. When you're hearing it, sometimes even upon reflection, you're not actually nailing the exact one you're in. So we're going to try to be as detailed as possible because there's a lot of confusion sometimes. Am I in a rut or a magic dark? And so we can maybe give a little bit of an overview of it for the new listener.
Yes. Okay. So if any of these categories kind of seem like you're going to be in one of the phases. If you're manifesting, if you are calling things in, even if you haven't intentionally wrote a list or done an official protocol yet, we will during the challenge. But even if you haven't done that yet, if you desire something, you are in one of the phases in this manifestation process. So do you feel in a rut, stuck in lack of motivation, lack of direction, like you're trekking uphill? You can't seem to find that spark or creative motivation. You're repeating the same negative cycles you've been trying to break. So it's like if you are constantly texting your ex or engaging with those people again and again, and you can't seem to get out of your own way, if you feel far from your authentic self, you may think you feel worthy of what you desire, but the actions you're taking don't align. You're settling, maybe you're not setting boundaries, not taking good care of yourself. You might feel powerless or like a lost cause, like nothing you want is possible. You feel unclear on how to move forward.
You definitely touched on it, but the way that I see it most often, and especially the example you gave, you are in the same test cycle over and over and over. Or another way is you're not receiving tests at all. You're just in complacency, not a lot of movement forward, not a lot of lust for life. And it doesn't have to be that you're receiving the same test weekly. It could just be that the last test you got was the similar energy of this. If you're a very new listener, often the universe tests you. It's testing to see if your self-worth has grown in order to match with the self-worth of the thing that you're calling in. So exactly your example, Jessica, where it's like, I did it again. I reached out to the ex and the universe is like, are you going to do it? Because the person you're calling in, it's a higher self-worth energy. It's not the behavior of the person you're calling in. So it's having to test to see, are you still there? And of course, if you are still engaging in that, you are still there. You still have work to do.
I like that you said that sometimes there might not be any tests in the rut. Sometimes people hear, "Oh, there's crickets, I must be in the magic dark." But sometimes if there's crickets, you could be in the rut. And part of why that might be happening, I feel like a lot of times when people are in the rut, they're not taking aligned action from their authentic self.
Yes. They're not taking aligned action from their authentic self. And oftentimes, they're not doing the work needed to unblock and integrate. I think that's what I see the most often with people in the rut cycles. They're just not unblocking. And if they are, they're skimming the surface. They're not getting to the deep rooted stuff, or they're gleaning one thing and they're like, I figured it out, I'm done. That's what I see the most when I think of the people I know in ruts.
I think that's so important to highlight because so many people think they're really, really close to their manifestation. And the rut is almost the one where you need to double down on who you are authentically, unblock, and start to detach from that programming that you've been looping on, why you're repeating the same cycle again and again and again. And then you can get close to your manifestation. But there's a couple of steps before that. So if you sometimes think you're in a magic dark, you might be in a rut, and there's a little bit more work you have to do in that phase.
Absolutely. Honestly, it feels hard. It feels like an uphill battle to flip the switch and like get into momentum and motion, but it's not that hard. Like once you're in it, it's like when you start working out again and you feel the juiciness and you feel the confidence. It's kind of the same thing when you like double down, get on it. And then of course, like people lose steam 3 months, but it's like if you just stay the course, you're going to get out of it very quickly if you are willing to put in the effort.
And then I think too about a lot of times I'll see artists or creatives online share how they're in a creative rut and they don't know what kind of content they want to post or they don't know what they want to share and they need to kind of go inward and have that reflective moment. It's the same thing there. If you're an artist of any kind or creator of any kind and you're not figuring out what your next screenplay should be or what your next social media post should be, it's that same thing where it's almost like you have a disconnection from your authenticity. So what used to light you up before isn't lighting you up because it's asking you to evolve past whatever you've used to light you up prior.
Agreed.
Okay, so then we have the rock bottom. Now, sometimes if you're in a rut long enough and you're not getting the hint and you're not unblocking and you're not taking any action, the universe can rock bottom you. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can rock bottom you when you're not even in a rut because you're far from your authentic self. But the rock bottom is really that rug is being pulled out from underneath of you. A massive heartbreak, getting fired from a job, unforeseen financial crisis, shaming, bullying, anything that feels like you're getting hit over the head by a 2x4. I think that was a great visual representation of like the rock bottom kind of like takes the wind out of your sails. You have to take a moment and really assess what's going on around you. So you don't know how to proceed, remaining in your worth and trust. Maybe your resources have dried up. You can't continue to make progress the way you once did. You're facing a massive shift. And that could be physical or it could be, I think, like mental constructs can also be rock bottoms. The way in which you knew things were operating this way, you can't unsee whatever now you know. And now you have to live differently and operate differently. What other things do you see there too?
Yeah. And the other piece about the rock bottom is two things. One, that your manifestation is actually probably close to you. And you're just not, again, kind of like we talked about with tests, you're not growing your self worth fast enough to align with it, but it's actually really close to coming through. So the universe is like, okay, I'm going to hit them in the Achilles heel right now because it's going to give them the motivation to do the work, the opportunity to do the work and get there. And that's usually the big energetic behind why it happens. But like Jessica said, that when you're in a rut long enough, the universe may hit you with a rock bottom. The reason it will do this, it won't do this if you don't have any unconscious or conscious intention that you're calling in. But the moment that you're in that rut and you're like, I know what I want, I need this, I want this thing. And it's from a soul place, right? Like a partnership or the right job or whatever, the purpose. When you have that moment of calling it in, whether again, it's unconscious, you were just watching a movie and you're like, that's what I want. That's when the universe is like, okay, cool. I'm happy to start connecting you with it, but you're not taking any action to make this happen. So I am now going to have to rock bottom you to put you into momentum.
And one thing that we've said a lot, but it's not a punishment from the universe. You don't have to think about it like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this quick enough or fast enough. Like I'm getting punished. It's all to help your evolution. And anytime, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, but anytime I look back on a pattern of rut or a rock bottom, I'm so thankful I went through it because there was so much I learned, I needed to learn, I evolved and grew from. And then I manifested so much more and more aligned on the other side of them.
I would have to say the people that I know that have the most interesting, coveted lives are ones who have gone through many rock bottoms because of exactly what we're talking about. Not only does it help like define your character beyond any measure, but it evolves you. It makes you interesting. That's where some of the best art comes from, the best creativity and work from those painful spaces. Even if you look at birth, as a baby coming through, of course, if you weren't a cesarean, like it's painful to come through the birth canal into this new existence. It's painful to birth a baby through this canal in this new existence. That's how you have to kind of look at it. And then there's so much potential and beauty on the other side.
So if you guys are navigating rock bottoms right now, don't worry. It's going to get better. I promise. It's all moving towards your highest good, but absolutely feel your feelings through it. And then the up level. What is the difference between the next level when you're manifesting, things are coming through and you're like, I just want a little bit more versus the up level?
They're kind of the same thing, but energetically, the difference is one, we're putting our will into it. When you start to integrate to a certain level and you start to become super magnetic, I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm not as directional anymore. I'm a lot more abstract. I'm not honed in and attached and like chasing.
Yes.
And so I think someone who's feeling like they're leaning into the next level, they still have a grasp and a control. And there's still some integration there, which there is for life. But when you really do integrate into this work, there's a deeper surrender that comes literally every day. Whereas the person who's in the up level, things are happening so fast for them and they don't have a ton of attachment. They're really just trying to hang on.
Yes.
That's when you've integrated so much, you've expanded so much that it's all happening so fast for you. And often you're met with a lot of things around you that feel new and scary and different. It happens quickly and you're just hanging on for dear life and everything's coming towards you, whether you want it to or not. And you're just having to grow your aura. So I would say energetically, those are the differences between the two. One's still a little bit more clingy, steadfast, intentional, not dog paddling, but chasing. And the other, you're just like, it's all happening quickly and you're hanging on and you're getting there and you're growing your nervous system because most likely the things that are coming in and the stuff that is meeting you is so much greater than what you grew up with, so much greater than what you even imagine. And it's probably happening in a different way than you back in your next level phase were willing it to become. So that's how I see them differently.
So for the up level, do you find that, at least for me, I noticed that things come through that were not even on my list, not even on my radar, things just coming through, like money that I didn't even have on my list, or, all these just situations are just coming. And you're like, whoa, what? Okay, I didn't even write this down.
Yes.
But I am excited by this. Is that the energy there?
100%. And I think that that's where I would say I'm in most of the time, which is obviously met with all of those growing pains that come with it, where you're like having to pass tests and things and you're like, can life just chill out a little bit? Like, can all of these things, calm down? But that's exactly what it's like. Like you get to a point where you're more at God's will at that point. What's supposed to be happening for you is, and just hang on. And it's mostly to integrate and take aligned action where needed to stay on course, to feel grounded, to feel capable of holding it all. In fact, if I'm being really honest, aside from what we do at the end of the year with the manifestation challenge, I don't really write lists anymore. I don't do that kind of stuff. I just surrender. And this isn't everybody's case, but I just want to say, like, when I started out in this work, I was in a $300 apartment. I was a waitress. I was a doormat in dating. Like, I didn't have anything that I have now, but I was reflecting a couple of weeks ago, and I said this at the speaking tour at our New York stop. I was like, I've manifested everything I've wanted. Like back then, the things that I was intentional about and wanting, I have them all and some, with the animals and real estate and things like that. And so at this point, I'm not really actively manifesting much anymore. I'm in this state of what we're talking about, constantly in just up leveling, because innately it's not like I just stop integrating and stop doing that work, but I don't have to write things down as much. I don't have to become intentional really about what I want, because I'm much more fluid with the universe's will. And I even look at how that looks for me, and it's very different for a lot of people who are in that in between stage of where I started and where I am now. But most often than not, I'm always thinking about like, how do I want to spend my time? And this wouldn't necessarily be somebody else's experience who's in this up level energy, but I'm like, oh, I just want to like save dogs, go to nursing homes, like get into being supportive with foster. It's like, it's a very different thing. I'm in a lot of surrender. I'm in a lot of how can I give back? How can I show up for others, which is so different than the way that I grew up, which was fight and flight, survival constantly. So it's just something for people to know, like wherever you're starting at, may you be in you will be in one of these phases. Wherever you're at, that's where you're headed. Everybody's headed there. And there's nothing special about me. I just use these tools to do this. And that's how it's arrived.
And then what are some key factors with the up level? We haven't had a checklist quite before, so we're going in real time on this, but I feel like the up level is the sensation where a bunch of new manifestations are coming through. Maybe some other things have dropped off, but it feels like there are a lot of really good tests.
Mm-hmm.
Like tests, you're like, okay, cool. How can I navigate this? And I have my tools. I know how I can do this. And you have opportunities coming through. And I feel like a lot of creativity and a lot of the up level is almost an overwhelm of the nervous system.
I think when I'm going through it, or people I know are going through it, they're like, oh shit, is this going to get taken away? Like, or, oh shit, can I handle this? Like, can I actually handle and hold all of this? And then I would say that there's a much deeper level of a reassurance and a sense of self, where you're like, I don't have to make everybody happy. And who cares if that thing doesn't there's a deeper integration, much less of a need for exterior validation. What are other things that I notice with people in this space? Very truthful to your authentic self. You're becoming so truthful, like the dangling carrots that you needed before outside of you to validate you no longer are that interesting. They're not worth the effort. I think about like our brand and myself and stuff like that. When press comes through, I'm just like, no, there's just a deeper, and that's just to like show on a like career front, but you listen to your inner wants and needs so much more, rather than I should have this or be this or do this to be loved.
I've noticed too, the more I've evolved in my up levels, because I feel like that's a thing too, right? You can evolve in your up levels. Like I think about the up level I had when I first got the job at TBM, and I was so excited. I was like, okay, let's hit the ground running. But then I'm like, okay, there's all these new systems. And I think this happens to anyone when they first start a job. It's like, okay, I want to be really good at this. How do I learn all of this? How do I ingest all this? I mean, I was making PowerPoint spreadsheets on like how to do this and just going way above and beyond on certain things. And I was like, okay, I can tone it down. And what do we actually need that's going to like move the needle forward? And then I settled into it. But I think there's that period where it's like all the newness, all the ideas. And as you up level in your up level at that phase, I'm sure there was still parts of me that was trying to be, show how good I was and look at the value I can provide and all of that. And the up level I feel like I'm in now, I mean, even with having like our dog come through, yeah, I'm not getting a lot of sleep and, I'm learning new things and I'm getting so expanded on like a little tiny glimpse of what it will be for parenting one day. But I've got this. Like, I'm not worried about showing up wrong. And I feel like other up levels, I was like, what if I do this? And I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah, there's that sense of not confidence even. It's just like, it's a subtle sense of self. you are sturdier inside. I guess that's the only way I can kind of name the feeling of it when you're in it. And the universe it's going to see. It's going to see if that's true. That's like the part of the up level in a different way from rock bottoms. It's going to be like, can you handle this? These 5 things I'm going to test you with at once are all connected. Can you see the pattern, see why, see how easy it is to unblock it, to expand out of it and take aligned action out of it?
Okay. And then that final phase is the magic dark. So this is that uncomfortable in between after you've been tested, but your manifestations haven't come through yet. And what's really, really important about this is that you've been expanding, unblocking, taking aligned action. You've been passing tests. You say no to the red flags. You're clearing space with your authentic code. You're shifting out of those old patterns, limiting beliefs, the ways you used to show up before. You're not doing that anymore. And then it feels like the tap has run dry. The water has receded. Nothing is there. And you're kind of like, what? I've like done all this stuff. I feel so ready. What is going on?
And let's talk about magic dark lengths, because I think that will also help someone determine, oh no, this is a rut versus a magic dark. Because yes, some magic darks can take a while in very specific cases, but most often than not, they're no longer than a month, or 2 months max. It's not this long, elongated year-long process. So that's something I think worth noting about a magic dark, especially if you're not in this work and you haven't done how to manifest yet, and you're just naturally going, oh, that's me. That's one thing to look at. How long has this magic dark been going for you? If it's longer than 2 months, most likely it's a rut.
I think you can be in a magic dark, and then could you move into a rut if you don't continue the unblocking process, or was it a magic dark at all?
Well, the way that I see elongated magic darks, manifestations are still coming through during that time. It's when you're fully hearing crickets that it's a rut. Like I'm thinking about the longer versions of magic darks I've been in for the very big thing where it's like I'm close, but it's taking a while. Other manifestations are coming through during that time.
I'm thinking about even my home up level. I guess part of it is I haven't really wrote my list of what I want next. So there's no like intentional kickoff. It's more like if something comes through that feels really perfect, I'll grab it. But I haven't sat down and like put on my list exactly what I want for the next space. So I guess for people who similarly, that's not a magic dark, I haven't really gotten intentional on it. I haven't sat down and unblocked and, all the things. Maybe subconsciously I'm picking up expansion here and there. But until I think you have that moment of like, okay, universe, I'm ready for this. The gates are open. Like, let's go. I'm ready to call this in. Then you start to work with it from that point on.
Yeah, what do I want to call that? Because that's usually my manifestation starting process. It's like I'm just dancing with something. I
Yeah.
haven't fully gotten like, yes, let's ask for that yet. And that back in the day, even that was the case. Like I remember when I was cognizant that it was time to leave my last relationship, I started to go like, what would I want in this next, it started with that like 7 months before. And then I would say 5 months before I finally sat down and made my list when I was like, I'm leaving for sure. So that's a really good point. That's not quite a magic dark, that space and that energy, because you're not actually like really following the steps of manifestation. You're collecting at that time. You're like collecting and getting clear.
I think that's really important to highlight because I think people are collecting a lot and then they're like, I'm at this phase, it must be close. But if you're not being intentional, if you're not looking at who are your exact expanders around this thing, if you don't have clarity of exactly what it looks like, you always say with the list, if you write a wishy-washy list, you're going to get wishy-washy results. You're not even sure what you really want. And almost like energetically, it's like when you step your toe in the water. Okay, I like a little bit want to jump in the water, but I'm not quite sure yet. Well, the universe isn't going to just give you a swimming pool. You just said you wanted to dip your toe in. So maybe you'll get like a puddle. You're not going to get the whole thing yet.
Agreed. Yeah. So the magic dark things to just be cognizant of is like, have you been really putting the effort into unblock, expand, take aligned action, and you're receiving the test and there's so much momentum, everything's happening. And then holy shit, it's totally quiet for a month at the latest, maybe 2 months. But really it's like a matter of a couple weeks, depending on how expanded you are and how close you are to the thing. So that's what the magic dark feels like. And another thing that we'll educate on a lot too is the more that you do this work, most importantly, the more that you're integrating subconsciously and blocking subconsciously and expanding subconsciously, you don't always have magic darks anymore. It's not like the water recedes and the thing comes through. So that's something to be aware of. If you have been really doing that stuff, you have been manifesting big things. Maybe you've been doing this for a year, 2 years, and you're like, I manifested this, and you don't really see magic darks anymore, don't be alarmed. Because like for me, I don't totally have them that often. Like for you with the puppy, did you have a magic dark?
No, because I think even the process with that, it was a lot more surrendered.
Yeah, upleveling.
Yeah. We set the list. We had a bunch of expanders. And then we had that last big in-person expansion moment with like kids, but it was like that mirrored experience. And then he came through and then aligned action.
That's what you have to look forward to when you've been doing this work and grasping it. It's one thing to like start it and dip your toe and do, but when you like really start grasping it and you really start manifesting and you build your trust muscle, you build a practice, that this is what you have to look forward to. Is most likely you'll start to come into the phase of mostly up leveling.
One of the things that I don't think I wasn't intentionally using on blocking during this dog manifestation, but I think they wound up being related, was working through a lot of nervous system regulation upon triggers and reaction. Okay, if I had a kid, I don't ever want to yell at them. So how do I take the pause before I can react to things, and then practicing in my relationship, and how can I go to my relationship without that elevation and understand what's going on. And I think that helped me unblock how to mom a little bit better, perhaps, like learning those elements and dancing with that a bit.
I love that.
I don't know about you all, but my sinuses have been going crazy. Maybe there's more pollen in the air or more dust, but for some reason, my nose keeps getting stuffy and running. And whenever I have anything with my sinuses, the first thing I run to is my Beekeepers Naturals. We are obsessed with them here at To Be Magnetic. They are the company that is reinventing the medicine cabinet by creating clean, effective products powered by the beehive and backed by science. So I will go and grab their nasal spray, which is a completely clean, all natural way to support, clear, and soothe your sinuses when you're having irritation, with all of the stuff that you need that helps your body recover without any of the addictive, habit-forming things that are in other nasal sprays out there on the market. It is packed with propolis, which is the defender of the beehive. Bees use it to line the walls and keep germs out of the hive. And when we take it internally, it is packed with B, C, and D vitamins, zinc, antioxidants, and 300 plus beneficial compounds. So when you get to spray this in your nose, it helps soothe the entire area and keep germs out. And it's also incredible to use before traveling or getting exposed to large groups of people. I heard a long time ago a recommendation that people have always said to put some sort of lubricant in your nose before you're going to go on an airplane or somewhere where you're exposed to a lot of different germs, because it helps lubricate the area and can trap the germs. And that's exactly what this propolis nasal spray does, but it has the added benefit of also having vitamins and minerals that are going to boost your immune at the same time. And their herbal formula also includes eucalyptus, oregano oil, and xylitol, which will help the flow of mucus and increase nasal volume to help clear your sinus passages. So if you are suffering from allergies, stuffy nose, dust, or you're just going to be exposed to a lot of people and you want to really boost your immune, this is a game changer. You can also check out their throat spray, which I also use. To support whenever I fly or travel, I have my nose spray and throat spray in my front pouch and make sure to spray both before getting on the airplane. And my health is in great condition afterwards. It gives me that extra boost. If you want to check out any of the Beekeepers natural products, you can go to their site, beekeepersnaturals.com, or check the link in show notes and use the code TBM for 25% off your purchase. Again, that is TBM for 25% off. Okay, so why are these things happening? For the rut, what is the purpose of the rut? Like, what the universe is always trying to connect us to our whole, worthy, most authentic, magnetic self. So if we find ourselves in the rut where we're trekking through mud, we're not getting clarity, we're kind of self-sabotaging a lot, what is the lesson here? What does the universe want us to understand about this phase that maybe we weren't getting before?
I think the rut is one that somebody can take like full accountability for. A lot of things contribute to how we can get into ruts. So I don't mean full accountability of trauma that you experience growing up, which is often what will lend to a rut. I think of people who are in just the career they never, it just like brings them to their knees. They hate it. It's not for them, but it's security and they don't know how to get out of that. And that's usually something from childhood that they've picked up, obviously, where things never felt secure. They have to be in this thing. Maybe if this was the career they went into, their parents would be happy. When we can take accountability for the rut phase, going like, I'm doing this to myself, because that's really what a rut is. And it doesn't mean that you're punishing yourself or anything. You're staying in a complacent state that you're pushing away your manifestation, because maybe honestly things like depression or anxiety or lack of knowing the next steps or having guidance or support next to you is keeping you in that space, and you're getting deeper and deeper into it. That's how I sort of see the rut. But again, it's kind of like that working out analogy. How can you look around right now and find what that tiny next step could be? And once you like have that little bit of opening, you can find the next one and the next. And it's just like working out or building a muscle. When you can do that, or if you need support to help guide you through this, a coach even to like motivate you through this, again, back to working out, like that's your way out of it. Of course, we have this workshop. And if you're somebody who can be self-disciplined enough and self-motivated enough, that workshop will get you through it. I like to see the rut as something like, I'm here because I don't fucking know, man. I don't know what to do next, and I don't know how to get out of this. And this is where I'm at in this loop. That's how I see that. The rut I see when you're absolutely not dancing with the universe. You are not listening. You are not engaging. You are not hearing your pings. You are not unblocking. You are not expanding. You are not taking aligned action. Or what I'll see sometimes too is that people are just like, what do you say? Like spiritual bypassing. I see that so much, whether you're using self-help, religion, whatever the thing is, like they're just trying to use something to glean over that doesn't take any deeper excavation and work. So that's how I see the rut. You're in it. You're not listening to the universe. You're not working with the universe. And that's okay. We've all been in different versions of the rut, and a lot of us have gotten ourselves out of it. When I look at something like a rock bottom, you are engaging with the universe and your thing is close. You've been engaging decently with it, or you're in a space where you've really asked for something consciously or unconsciously that aligns with your authentic self and your soul. And the universe is like, yes, you are supposed to connect with this thing. You are supposed to be with it. And you're not doing enough of the work to get there. It's going to rock bottom you because it's closer to you and it needs you to connect with it faster. So that's how you can kind of look with that energy. That is something where the universe is dancing with you very clearly, but you're not taking the necessary steps fast enough to make that happen. The up level, in my opinion, you are in such a flow with the universe. You have been unblocking and expanding. You've been manifesting. Your trust muscle is strong. You're so much closer to your authentic self and operating from that place that you're actually in a lot of surrender and letting the universe drive. I mean, if we kind of look at driving analogies, I would say that energetically, the rut is like you're parked and you can't put your foot on the pedal. You know what I mean? You just can't like turn the ignition on and put your foot on the pedal. The rock bottom is like you are
Like you took the wrong highway super fast. And the universe is like, detour.
Yes, it's like, I'm going to get you there in a different way. Whereas the up level, it's just like, you're just letting the universe drive at that point. You really are. You're close enough with your authentic self that you're allowing that to communicate for you of what you want next, what is to come for you. And then the next level, that's like the person driving and they're just like they have a grip and some control. They definitely are in the right direction. They're just kind of really forcing it a little bit more than they will be when they're up leveling.
Yeah, and I could say the up level too, the sensation almost feels like you were letting the universe drive, but now all of a sudden you're a hovercraft.
Yes.
Like you're taking a different model of transportation because you're now at this up level and you're like, is this safe? Am I good here? You're kind of checking in to make sure. I imagine people like, even when they got like the Teslas, right? And they had the first self-driving cars or whatever cars are doing that nowadays. The first people sitting there where they didn't have to drive were probably like, am I okay? Like, is this safe to drive in? There's that questioning in the up level where, yeah, the next level is like, we're on the path where we don't have to detour anymore. We know, we see where we're going. We got the, Google Maps is open right here, but they're still checking the map every 5 seconds to make sure they're going to the right direction.
Fast enough. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
And for the next level, it's kind of like you've got a base level of self-worth. And now you're like, cool, let's take it up a notch. What else do I want in my home or my career or my relationships? How do we take it up to the next level? Because now I know what my authenticity is and what my authentic self is like. How do we connect with that even deeper and even more so? And oftentimes there's a lack of clarity in the beginning where you're not quite sure exactly what it looks like. And so there's a little bit of diving into, okay, what do I actually want this to feel like?
Yes.
And then what would the magic dark be?
Gosh, it's so funny because the only reason we clump this in with these 3 teachings is because often people confuse the rut and magic dark, though they're not tied or related in any way. One doesn't inform the other at all. They're 2 completely separate things. So the magic dark, I wouldn't really use a driving analogy for it because it doesn't fit really. You're in How to Manifest, you're doing the work, you're doing inner child, you're doing shadow, you're getting it. You see the test, you recognize them, you know how to pass them. You're looking for your expanders and you're finding them in interesting ways, and you're so close to this manifestation. And the universe just really wants to know that if you are still where you started, or have you truly integrated all of this work you've been doing to become your most whole, worthy version of self and operating from that place and not freaking out if things don't work out from, in the way that you wanted? That's what the universe just really wants to see. Is this all a front, or are you really getting closer to your authentic, whole, worthy self? And when you can say, yeah, I am. I'm not going to get hit off my rock or anything. I am. And I'm doubling down on this. I am. And that's when the universe is like, phew, because so is the thing you're calling in. And now I can connect you guys. Whether that's a material thing, a spiritual thing, an energetic thing, an opportunity, a person, whatever, that's what's going on there.
The magic dark feels a little bit like that last little trust fall. I don't know why I'm seeing the sensation of someone on a high dive. And it's like that moment between when you jump off the high dive and you touch the water where you're just like, and you have to like hold your breath and trust. But you're good. The water, once you hit the water, that's your manifestation. And so that period between the high diving board and the water, you just have to hold your breath, surrender to the moment, do all the self-care work, just double down on your self-worth that you've grown during this whole period. And then boom, you'll just slide right into the water.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. There's so many people out there settling for unfulfilling relationships, or people who are stuck in toxic jobs, living in places and spaces that don't inspire them, and especially people who feel like they'll never be able to afford the things and the life that they truly desire. How do I know that? Because it was me before I discovered that manifestation is actually a totally viable, scientifically proven method of creating the life you want. I'm Lacy, I'm the founder of To Be Magnetic, and if you're not familiar with us, we at TBM offer workshops that teach you how to manifest literally everything, from love to money to career to beyond. Our courses are the most effective manifestation method on the market, and that's because of a secret that I discovered years ago about manifestation, which is you do not manifest from your thoughts. You manifest from your subconscious beliefs. So after decades of client research and input from leading doctors and therapists, we designed courses that help you rewire your subconscious mind to align with what you want to manifest. And the best part of all, for any skeptic out there, our work is completely scientifically proven to work. Just ask the tens of thousands of members inside our Pathway membership, which gives you unlimited access to all of our workshops, tools, and offerings that you'll use over the course of a year. This includes workshops on inner child, shadow, boundaries, love, money, the infamous ruts, and the horrible rock bottoms, and so much more. Use our special code EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first TBM purchase. Again, that's all caps EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode. Okay, so now that people that are sitting there, whether you're new or you've been with us for a while, let's hear really what's the medicine that the person needs that's in each of these phases? Just a quick glimpse of it before we go into this challenge that's obviously going to remedy this for the person. So let's first start with the rut.
Okay, so the rut, the person really needs to learn how to reconnect with their authenticity. Who are they from an authentic level? And then the rock bottom, the person really needs to let go of some sort of attachment that they had been leaning on before, a belief system, a sense of self, a low self-worth looping pattern. They need to drop that off in order to come into the next version of self. And then the next level is getting clarity of what you want from a truly authentic place, and then begin that trust walk with it. Oftentimes in the next level, once the manifestation comes through or multiple start to come through, that's when you sort of transition into that more trusting part of the up level. It's really nervous system regulation to calm their nervous system to hold more of what they wanted.
And what they need to feel safe.
Yes, it's all about, okay, I'm at this new space. How can I ground in to feel safe? And then for the next level and the magic dark, I think it's a trust walk. It's how do I really surrender? How do I know that what I want or greater is coming through in the most perfect timing? And now I just have to go live my life. Sure, I can unblock and, expand, take a line action, but how do I lean into that trust? And all of this really brings us to this year's manifestation challenge. We are kicking off the manifestation challenge in November, and we're going to help you answer all of these things. We're going to connect with your authenticity no matter what place you're at. We are going to sit with the blocks that you need to let go of, including a letting go deep imagining, so you guys can sit with, honor, and process the parts of you, the old crab shell that's fading off and growing into the new crab shell. We're going to connect with the trust and the surrender and how we nurture ourselves. You're going to get some more calming and nervous system regulating deep imaginings. So no matter where you are at in this process, we're going to help you navigate it. And while we're navigating it, manifest exactly what we want on the other side.
And I think this is the really important piece for somebody who's been listening to this, especially if you haven't been with us for a while. Like when Jessica was just giving that quick overview of what the real medicine is, each of these phases need. The important thing to understand at TBM and manifestation with real results, any manifestation practice you go to, we're talking subconscious. So we're talking a much deeper lift. It's not like you can go, smart, cool, got it, just going to switch and do that. No, I'm going to be my authentic self. But, I highly recommend, if you're new and this is maybe your first episode you're listening to, please go listen to our episode called Manifestation 101 to understand what we're talking about when we say the subconscious, because that's where you're manifesting from. And anything you're doing in your conscious space and you're just saying, I'm going to do this, rather than getting down there to see what's actually looping from 0 to 7, that's called spiritual bypass. And that's where you won't see any manifestation results. So I think that's really important to also be excited about the challenge. Obviously, the challenges are the most effective things that people engage in within the brand twice a year. What was the statistic from last year's manifestation challenge?
I believe it was 98.3%.
Of people who participated in it and finished it manifested what they were calling in within 6 months. And so when we do the mid-year challenge, that's much more of a deep dive and getting into your magnetism, et cetera. But the end of the year challenge is where we're actually doing all the work needed to connect with your manifestation in 2024. So I just want to clarify that for someone who's listening for the first time. This is your place where you're going to be guided step by step and held by community. And everywhere you turn in this brand, every single week of the challenge, you're going to have nothing but content supporting exactly where you're at in the challenge to ensure that you're part of that statistic.
The thing that's really interesting about understanding where you're at before going into the challenge this year and why we're doing that is because so many people had big transitions come up this year. And if we can just have a big transition or a big change and we move through it and we go on and we continue without actually reflecting on what that meant, why did that lesson come up? What is the universe trying to teach me? That was a thing on our survey when we asked you guys, what are you most interested in learning? You're like, what is the universe trying to teach me? What all these tests mean? What all these patterns mean? Why do I keep repeating the same thing and over again? What's the lesson? So I could really integrate it because I'm ready. I'm ready for the new manifestation. I'm ready for a new life. I'm ready for a new sense of self and worthiness. I'm ready. It's scary, but I'm ready. Or it's exciting and I'm ready. And so now it's like, how can you use the lessons you have been given this whole year and sit with it and say, what is the lesson? And now from that place, especially if you did the magnetic self challenge, you know who your magnetic self is. What does that version of you want? And is there still a part of you from when you did the magnetic self challenge to now that you're still repeating a little bit of old patterns that you need to finally be like, okay, we're done. We're not doing that anymore. We are ready for this next phase.
Love it. Agreed. Excited.
So also we have a quiz that we designed where if you are listening through this episode, you kind of know maybe I'm in the rut, rock bottom. It could be a combination. We have a quiz where you can answer questions and what elements are going on for you and figure out what phase you're in. So you will know very, very clearly when you kick off this challenge where you're at, where your starting point is. And then you have this beautiful reference where you can see, oh my gosh, I started the manifestation challenge in the biggest rut or the biggest rock bottom ever. And then you're going to see at the other side of the challenge how much you've transformed and manifested through that.
I'm excited for this quiz too. I know where I'm at, but I just love answering quizzes.
Same.
I'm excited.
It's like old school Cosmo days.
It's totally old Cosmo days. I'm like, how do we incorporate that into all of this stuff? But sometimes it's actually hard to have that self-reflection. I saw that, at the New York stop when I can read energetics. I can see you can too, where people are at. And I could hear people talking who are answering the questions. I'm like, oh, they totally didn't figure out their archetype here. They think that there's something they're not. So that's where we felt that the quiz would be a deeper support system for you to really get clear on the phase you're in and how to go from that place into this challenge to see results.
And one other very fun feature that we're adding in. We had so many people ask about the blind spot teaching and archetypes and how that relates to their manifestations. We had that teaching on tour. We got to do it in person with everyone, but we're incorporating it into the challenge this year.
Yes.
Nothing is hiding from you after this challenge. You are radically honest with yourself. You know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Everything is going to get pulled up to get weeded out and have the best garden bed ready for 2024.
Woohoo.
Just for that inspiration of hope for someone out there who's really in the thick of a rock bottom, really in the thick of a rut, they're feeling overwhelmed in their up level, or they're just like, I don't know how much longer I can trust in this magic dark. If you navigate it intentionally with us through this challenge, step by step, alongside community with thousands and thousands of other people that are likely in one of these 4 phases as well, what you are going to see on the other side of that is going to be the most intentional way you can navigate that phase. Because so many times when we go through these big phases, we kind of just don't pay attention. We're not really looking at the patterns. We're not being intentional about what we're unblocking or where we're expanding or what action we're taking. We're going through the motions. And when you get to do it in community with the collective at the same time, you have an opportunity to really transmute any of these phases to the most magical option you could ever have on the other side of them.
And I think especially people who are in a rut or a rock bottom, traditionally it's a very isolating place to be. And the beauty of this is we're collecting our community where many people will be, like Jessica was saying, in the same phase. So there's no isolation there. You're actually going to be able to have that support in the community group and realize, oh, other people are in the same place as me. Kind of like when you're in support groups, it's like, oh, okay, step 1, this doesn't feel alone. Other people go through this. Cool. I'm not, all the things you could be saying about yourself, the shadows you could be feeling. So I think that's a really important thing to name too.
I mean, I think about even when I went through a big relationship rock bottom years ago before I met Daniel and that relationship ended. And I was like, I just want someone to tell me, what is the breakup protocol? Like, how do I navigate this consciously and learn my lesson so I don't get in this pattern again? Like, I'm over it. I want something that feels more aligned. And there was stuff here and there, but like, this is your roadmap. This is your conscious roadmap of navigating these big life moments.
Yes, agreed.
Excited. Well, stay tuned, everyone. We're going to be sharing more on the podcast and helping you navigate through. And for anyone who's interested in participating, if you're a Pathway member, it's free to anyone who's already in it. And our membership sale is kicking off on October 20th. So stay tuned and you can sign up with the sale. So join us and let's move through this transition and manifest on the other side.
Woohoo. Let's do it.
I hope you all enjoyed that episode as much as we did. And if you're starting to get a feel for this to be magnetic manifestation process, but aren't completely sold yet, let me point you to some of our free offerings. You can check out the expanded podcast episode called How to Manifest Anything You Desire, where Lacy, the founder, and I break down exactly what this process is all about. You can check out the Motivation, which is our testimonial library with thousands of testimonials of people who have manifested wild things using this process. Or you could check out our free quiz to find out what manifestation phase you were in, the rut, the rock bottom, the next level, or the magic dark, and how you can navigate. Enjoy! We'll see you next week.